Okay, great. So we're recording now, and the as we were just talking about, we'll plan to make this video public, and if there's any parts of it that as we're hearing it, we're like, maybe I shouldn't have said that, then let me know right away, and we'll stop the recording right then so we know when to edit it if we need to do an edit. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So first of all, great that we're connecting since you become a leadership council member. So yay, great to have you here on the leadership council. Yes, I mean, super exciting. I'm so grateful for you being a part of the leadership council, for the energy that you're holding in the world, Diane. As you know, the last, I guess I'll just say, so, who's ever watching understands some of the context. My mom reached out to you. Do you want to tell the story since you were there, in terms of my mom reaching out to you at the very beginning, and then we'll kind of catch up how you and I then started connecting.
Right. Well, your mom had sent me and she reached out to me maybe over Facebook or something like this, probably because I have an organization that is focused on working with individuals with disabilities. And she wanted to have a chance to talk to me about, this cool thing that had to do with the disability community. So of course I wanted to talk to her. And we had a great conversation on the phone. I was so excited after speaking with her. And then that led to me talking to you, because of course she said, well, I've got this wonderful tech guy you need to talk to. And so then that just was one thing, one thing led to another. And we've gone through some challenging world experiences together, I guess you could say.
A lot has happened since we've been connecting. I was trying to think of the timing. So it was the fall of 2018 is what I was calculating when mom reached out to you. So that was when we first started being in conversation. And then, like you said, it was around disabilities. Then over the following summer is when I was starting to look at social justice as a way to be focusing the energies. And then as COVID came and kind of changed our world, then it all started pivoting from there. And you and I actually been mostly out of touch for most of that time. But as I was starting recently in the last, I guess it was since October or so, since I started reaching back out to people about what we're doing, to say, hey, we're doing the leadership council and be awesome. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, you and I actually were in touch before that. So we've been in touch a few more months before that. And I can't remember exactly what first.
Well, I was a fly on the wall when you were doing a lot of dynamic work around the rollout of the vaccines and gathering all of the scientific data and really facilitating these scientists being able to have a repository, but more than a repository and all that stuff. And then I think that was the time that the idea for the energetic council had sprung up.
That's right. So yeah, thank you for reminding me about that part. Yeah.
I sat in on a couple of those. I believe it was a couple of those meetings where I was, again, more like a fly on the wall, but just holding the energetic space and learning more about what you do and how you work with teams and how you play multi-dimensional chess, or however you describe what it is you do, because it's crazy, but quite amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that reflection of how you see those things. That's wonderful. Yeah. And the energetic council that you mentioned is something that actually hasn't been recorded yet. I mean, it was back when I was talking with the students about it back then, but not since we've been making all these recordings public. So basically, it was the idea that I was having as the students were going through all kinds of machinations of emotions and stresses and all kinds of things going on. I can't even imagine, having observed them now, how they're dealing with school, and most of them working a lot, if not full time, and almost all of them dealing with some family stuff, if not like small children, and just like everything, and just like it's really extraordinary. So with all of the stuff that they're trying to deal with all at once, I was really tuned into the fact that how they were showing up in the project was very much a reflection of how they were dealing with the world, right? And especially at their young age compared to us and the people around us, that we've got however many decades of experience on them of how to deal with all of this stuff. And they're just like, right at that moment. So, it just had me so super present to the fact that there could be so much support for them to be operating at a higher level and to have access to tools that they wouldn't know about otherwise. So the intention of the Energetic Council was to bring together all of these different leaders and people that I know that are friends of mine just from my past world of being amongst those people, to bring a council together to be like a supportive resource for the students and also for the organization. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the students came along afterwards. It really originally, as I shared it with you originally, was that for a long time, as I've been visioning first Energetic Planet and then Higher Vibe Life and then Uniting for Action, that I've always felt like there has to be this real strong, solid vibrational core of people more than just me, of course, that there has to be, some foundation that is like the foundation that everything gets built upon. And so as I'm searching for all of the other pillars to make up that super pillar, you've definitely been one of the people that, has stood out to me in my experiences amongst people, and you're one of the people that I really would like at the core of this. So I'm so glad, that you're here now. As you know, I was asking you, at the beginning to be a part of it. Wasn't the right timing for you, and that's perfect. And now it's perfect that you're here, and I'm very excited and happy to start creating with you. So awesome to have, us starting to synergize our energies on a much higher level, together and with this group and with the world. I'm really excited to start playing this game with you, Diane, and see where we can go with all of it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I just remember having some really, what I thought were very stimulating conversations just around, the idea of being an integrated human and being able to show your spiritual aspect within a different sorts of work settings and that kind of thing. And I really sensed that was part of what you were bringing forth in creating that holding space for the students, during that time. And so I definitely wanted to be a fly on the wall and say, ooh, how's this looking? How does this work? So thank you for that.
Yeah, you were one of the, few people. It was really only in the end, since my own attention was being pulled in so many directions. That's why I never really could keep going forward with bringing all those people together and setting up that meeting as I had envisioned it. I just never, carved out the bandwidth to make that happen. It was you and Myra that were the only two that said, yes, I'd like to do this. I'll be there. I'll commit to the meeting. So, again, thank you for being one of those pillars right in that moment. I really appreciate that. And now the world gets to appreciate that, knowing that's how you were showing up here.
We have a nice little story here, don't we?
We do. So, I'd love to go on and on, and I want you to get a lot of value out of this meeting to really start honing in on your vision. And like you shared, just before we started recording, I didn't give you any homework. I didn't give you any prep. And it's actually, like I said, perfect, because we want to show people what it looks like from the very, very beginning of how how we start managing this. And actually some stuff is brand new. So let me just dive right in and show you what we're doing. So the manifestation process is the solution that we are going to focus on. And that's the process that you are getting, loaded into at this point. You're loading up all of your visions into this manifestation process. And this is what I think is, and so this worksheet is your worksheet. So this is a shared Google Doc. So let me go ahead and share it with you. Do you have a Google account now?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. So I'm going to share this with anybody though, and then that way you can share it with anybody as well. Any of your family or friends or partners or anything. This, so this shared document. Put in the chat there. So this shared document is your worksheet that you and I, will share, and you'll share with others. And it starts, just really basic. So what are you here for? And you get to rhetorically ask yourself these questions later. What are you willing to take a stand for? What are you willing to make an effort for? What are you willing to be committed to? And what are you willing to give your word to? Because that's basically what the manifestation process is for. Declare your vision. So really, part of the process itself is to help you actually narrow down to what you are willing to give your word to. Because a lot of us have these visions, and we've got very big visions and all of that. But, we have to decide which parts of those visions are the parts that we're really focusing on right now, and which parts we need other people and stakeholders and other entities to manage and all of that. So really, this is a process, and I'll show you in the step-by-step for you to declare your vision, and then for us to really start to take a look at it, to give you a process to go down and distinctly define your vision, what stakeholders and resources you need in order to fulfill that vision, and then a process to be able to find them, attract them, plug them into the system, manage the whole process, and create the end result. So that's the process that I'm going to take you through. And we're going to, dive into some very specific details today, but that's the overall process. So actually, let me just give you a quick visual. So it looks pretty much like this. Your vision intention, you get to say what you want. And in the end, you have a win-win exchange where you get what you want. So we're creating a process to go from saying what you want to getting what you want. And the process basically, again, starts with you declaring what it is that you want. We are going to go through an analysis process where you're going to look at your vision through all these different lenses: strategy, organizing, financing, management, technology, and outreach. And by looking at it through all those dimensions, you'll really determine what your needs are and what stakeholders you need, what resources you need in order to fulfill your vision. And then you get to decide what you're offering to those stakeholders and those resources. What incentive are you giving them in order for them to show up and play the role that you want them to play, right? You're giving this to get that. And not only are you offering incentives to the stakeholders themselves, but there's also vision holders for you that are a separate group that may not help you achieve the outcome, but they can refer stakeholders to you. They can connect you with other people, other resources. So these are your vision holders. And you also offer incentives to them as well to have them, you'll give them a referral commission or a finder's fee or whatever it looks like in order for them to give you what you're looking for, the stakeholders, the resources, that sort of thing to connect you. And then, of course, all of that requires agreements. What are the terms of the offer fulfillment? So it's a real contract with a real transaction, and you're really getting down to it. And then when you do that, then you end up with the win-win exchange with all of the stakeholders and with all the vision holders, and then you get what you want. So we're going to dive into all the nitty-gritty details of going through this whole process. But in the end, this is a shorthand way to look at what it looks like as a process. So any questions or comments about that?
Looks great.
Okay, great. So as I shared with you, we have this 30-minute tutorial video that actually goes through what I'm just going to breeze through right now, because we're actually going to go into the process rather than describe it all so much. But I'm just going to share with you that we've got 3 phases, and each phase has 3 steps. So the first phase is the planning phase, and I'm going to mention the 3 steps in a moment. And the next phase is the recruitment phase, and again, another 3 steps we'll talk about in a moment. And then the management phase and the 3 steps involved with that. And basically between the 3, planning, recruitment, and management, what's happening is that during the planning phase, you're honing in on your plan. So we're going to come up with some kind of very rough things. You're going to be talking with people. You're going to be getting input from different sources. You're going to just narrow down to a plan that like, okay, this is a plan we can work with. This is a plan we can execute, right? And then you get to choose again, whether you are ready to execute this plan or whether, oh, this needs to wait 2 months or this is somebody else that needs to handle this part or whatever. You get to decide, you know, what all the requirements are. And then once you decide to go forward, then you're into the recruitment phase, where in the recruitment phase, you are bringing all of the stakeholders to the table. You're finding them, you're creating those offers and those agreements, you're recruiting your vision holders to help you recruit your stakeholders. So it's very much a recruitment process, right? To end up getting the stakeholders that you need, unless you've got them all, which you may. But regardless, it's that process of getting everyone together and then having all the agreements, having everything ready to be able to execute the plan, right? So when you're at that point that you're ready to execute the plan, then you're moving into the management phase, because then it is very much like a project management type of thing, right? You've got all these different stakeholders that all have their own roles and responsibilities, and you need to have all these different interchange and communications and coordinations and, you know, everything you need to be able to execute it all, right? So that's the management phase. So planning, recruitment, management. Any questions about that?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
No
cool.
questions so far.
Okay, cool. So today we're going to dive right into the planning phase. So the objectives of the planning phase are, first of all, like I said, to provide a reality check for the vision. That's really the main thing, is we want to not just have all of these visions that are just floating out there. We want to really narrow down the visions that we're giving our word that we're creating results out of these visions, right? And so of those, then we assemble a team of analysts who help us identify all of the necessary stakeholders and resources needed to achieve the vision. So we may have an idea that we need some technology support, but we don't know how much it's going to cost to produce a video or do the editing. We don't know the time involved. Like, we've got to find somebody that can give us real numbers about this, you know, even if they're not going to do it for us, like know what our budget figures are, essentially, right? So that's the analysts that you're going to recruit and have support you. And we're also, the objective is to provide a roadmap for the achievement of the vision in the form of plans. So again, the end of the planning phase, you'll have all of these plans. You'll be able to share all these plans. This is what we're doing. And then lastly, to provide the information necessary for someone to choose to champion the vision to the recruitment phase. So again, a lot of different visions when put through the planning phase are going to, you know, change significantly, or people are going to realize it's actually not for me to do this. This is a great vision, but this is for somebody else to do, you know, type of thing. Mm-hmm. So that's really the most important part of the planning phase, is making sure that we're going from whatever the visions are out there to really narrowing down to what is it that we're going to execute, right? That we're going to be committed to execute. So that's the process that we're going to start today. And we're going to, you know, not worry about the other phases quite yet, other than the fact that you really are going to start the planning phase by thinking about what you're actually going to be executing, right? There are other parts to the planning phase and the recruitment phase. Like, again, in the planning phase, you still want to plan out and strategize about how you're going to execute the recruitment phase part of it, right? How am I going to find vision holders? What am I going to offer them, and all of that? So there's still a lot of planning in the planning phase for the other phases as well. But for the moment, we're just going to focus on whatever your big vision is that you want to execute in the world. We're going to start to look at what are the big pieces of that? What are the stakeholders of that? Which ones do you already have? Which ones do you need? What kind of offers can you make to them? Those sorts of things. So does that sound good?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect. So what we're going to start with, what I'm going to do is we're going to start with actually a mind map. And this is the first thing. So actually what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to show you the mind maps that I created for Angie out of these conversations. And then we're going to start creating a mind map for you. Okay, so Angie and I have had a couple of these conversations, and now out of it, here's one mind map that we've created for abundancia. And this actually is still first draft. Angie hasn't even edited this yet, so I should make that clear. It may not be the final map, but it gives you an idea, what we've talked about are these different components of abundancia: a sacred temple, living spaces, commercial enterprises, ecological space, co-working space. So there's these different parts. And even actually, as a matter of fact, we went into some detail around the sacred temple and some detail around the co-working space. So we actually have mind maps for those that I'm going to show you as well. So I just want to show you how, we can drill down on certain parts. Then in addition to the components, we have the concepts of what abundancia is about, prospective locations, getting down to actual locations and things that are happening around those locations. Like, for example, she had a conversation just recently with somebody that's doing some land purchasing around Cedar Island, North Carolina. So what we did with that part of it is I took that part of our conversation here, this 2 minutes and 52 seconds that we spoke about that part, and I summarized it over here in a way that I made it a situation, a concern, a vision, and an action. Mm-hmm. And then here's the actual, 3 minutes of video to see where Angie is talking about it. And then also similarly, here's another 2 minutes and 29 seconds later in the conversation where some of it came up again with different details. And here's just the summary of the details in this video. And now that we've created this page, now Angie can start sharing this page with the other people, particularly the person she spoke with and the people he's speaking with and other people. And soon it's actually going to be a collaborative process where, multiple people are contributing to the same page and they're contributing different videos. So it's almost like a workspace, right? For the vision is what it, in a sense. Mm-hmm. And so that's where this mind map is going to go. Basically, in conversation with me, with others. And this is where, you'll start as much as you can recording conversations between your business partners, your prospective business partners or strategic partners, different whoever, because as you're having conversations with them and that's getting recorded, if you could edit it up, and this is actually where we're going to start to provide these services like what I'm showing you, if you could have somebody that's chopping it all up and putting it into all these places, like there's 5 or 10 different things that you guys talk about in the hour, and somebody edits that all, puts it all in the right places, and then it's getting collected in the right places, and then your conversations you don't have to have that same conversation with 5 other people. Like, you can just send them to the video clip, right? And they can be doing the same. And there's so much efficiency because, part of it as you're having the same thing over and over to the same people is it's just repetition, right? So that's one solution aspect of this. And that's actually a whole another solution that Uniting for Action is developing right now to be able to, show the world how we can be efficient in our communications and turn it in to actions in a really efficient, effective way. So we're going to be getting to the point where we only say things once, then it's on video, then it's in the right place. And then we only have to focus our personal time on creating new important things that will then get out there to the right people in the right places, that sort of thing. So that's kind of where we're headed with this concept. And so the way that we're doing it now is, again, we'll create the video, then we're going to be providing resources for people to edit if they want to, or they can edit it themselves, all the different ways to do it. So again, everything that we're doing is from self-service to full service kind of thing. And we're providing all of the options in between. So now, getting back to what it looks like in the mind map. So just imagine that all these different things on your mind map could be a web page that's hosting some of the things that you talk about, but then also some of the things that the other people that you're connecting with are talking about. So it'll start to become like a central place of collection of the thoughts around what you're doing in collaboration with other people. And we'll keep adding more and more tools. Basically, this is still only one perspective solution. It's not even best practices. We'll figure out a way to make, best practices out of all of this stuff. We're going to attract all the expertise so that everything we're doing starts to be optimum best practices in everything that we're doing. But even in this, first draft way, you can see where it can be much more efficient and effective just to start organizing things and communicating things and getting things down, right? Especially at the level of specificity of, like this type of mind map, and now we've got this mind map for the sacred temple, right? So again, imagine Angie trying to have a conversation with somebody about how they could be a part of the sacred temple without having this mind map, without sharing this type of information, without sharing the 2-minute video about this and the 3-minute video about this. And you get what I'm saying? Like everything stays trapped in Angie's head until we have a system like this where everything that's in Angie's head is now out on all of these web pages, and everybody can be interacting around all of this content, right? And so here's the co-working spaces. So again, this is what we're about to do with you, is just to start to jump into what are your mind maps? What's it look like from an overall perspective? Like what are the things that you want to drill down on and really focus on? And by the end of it, you know, we're gonna, again, I'm setting you up with this process. You essentially want to choose a vision that you feel like your 3 months as a leadership council member, you know, that's the term. So we don't know what'll happen after the 3 months, but this is your 3 months to just, you know, go, pardon the expression, balls to the wall, to really, you know, do whatever you can with this group of people, you know, with this technology, with this concept, with all of these, you know, leaders that are supporting each other and achieving the highest vision, being the highest version of themselves, right? Achieving what we can possibly achieve. It's really a test in what we're willing to give our word to, is really what this all comes down to. Because you can give your word, you know, down here, you can give your word up there, but as long as you are being in integrity with your word, and as long as you're using your word as power, then you have the opportunity to just create whatever's going to happen in the world, right? And this is just essentially like an acceleration process, a super acceleration process, right? Because people in general don't have their visions all mapped out in ways that anybody that they know can look at them and can support them, right? The way that this is getting broken down is that you've got all your visions, you've got all your stakeholders defined across all your visions, you've got all of your offers defined that you're willing to make to them. You've got all of your offers that you're willing to make to others who can send you any of these things. And when you have those offers to anybody that can send you any of these things, now anybody in the world can help you in some way potentially, right? By connecting you with something. If there's something in it for them, they're incentivized to help you because they're going to earn 10%, or they're going to earn $100, or they're going to get on your good side and you're going to do something for them. You know, whatever it looks like, this is like a very structured system of all of us knowing how we can support anyone and what we get in return. And we get to choose how we spend our valuable time making connections and supporting people connecting and supporting visions. And, you know, I really want you to succeed with this, Jared. So I'm going to connect you with this person, and I'm going to connect you with this person. And you're leveraging your valuable time and relationship capital. And now you get to choose how to do that across all your friends and all of your potential strategic partners and all your everything, because we'll soon be in this system where everybody's defining everything this way, and we all know exactly how to support each other and how to interact with each other.
All right.
So that's what we're starting. I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot there, especially when we go out to the big vision. So now we'll just bring it back to where you're at and what you want to accomplish, and focus on who you need to, you know, attract into your orbit in order to be able to achieve what it is that you want to achieve, and what it is that you're offering them in return that they want to show up and they want to play that role in your vision. So does that sound very tangible and clear?
Oh, it does. It does. But my mind is going in all these different directions because so many of the projects that I'm at different stages of implementation with, I'm like, ooh, that would plug in really nicely with this type of a framework and how helpful that would be. But then there's another part of me that's saying, well, like, wait a minute, are we so, you know, I want to do it according to the way it's intended to be done. So should it be like the whole big enchilada of everything, and then the projects would become, you know, the subsequent mind maps, the way Angie's is, like she's got this big thing. Because I've been working at my thing for about, you know, maybe 4 years actively building my organization. So some of the components are already, you know, they already actually exist. And then there's gaps, and there's, missing pieces, and then there's partial collaborations, and then there's also entrenched collaborate. So it's kind of, it seems a little bit messy to
Yeah.
fit into what you're, proposing here.
No, I totally hear that. And that's the thing. And that's where I'll make a distinction for you, because in the end, you are going to want to, and I'm going to use the term, the best practices version of this system, because the system is far from optimized yet. Again, first draft, we're going to go through lots of evolution, ways from here. But in that optimized system where, we're figuring out the best ways to manage all of these intermingled projects, so to speak, and all of these different visions that we have and all these different balls that we're juggling, essentially, that it's just like you have things on your calendar, and it's not like you wouldn't leave certain appointments off of your calendar because you didn't want to put it on your calendar, right? Like, you need to rely on your calendar. You need to know what's there. Anything that's not there, how are you going to know to show up for it, right? So in the end, this system is going to be like that for you, where there aren't going to be parts of your life and your world that you're not going to want to have in the system, because then that's just an area that you're not, creating the results in the ways that you could, right? It's the areas that you're choosing not to create results actively in, because any areas that you want to actively create results in, this is going to be a far more optimal way to be able to create results than not using a system like this. Does that make sense?
Sure. But I have to tell you that even part of my mind is like saying like, oh, there's this other project that I'm engaged with that doesn't have anything to do really with my organization directly. And I'm thinking like, maybe the idea would be to get started with something a little bit more manageable.
Exactly.
Learn the process, get comfortable with the process, and then migrate over the big messy thing that I have.
That's exactly it.
I'd rather say the big organic things that I have.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point that you're making, and it's very important to be able, because when you have something very big and lots of moving parts and all of that, then, like you're saying, it's a much longer haul than a 3-month process. And what can you get done in those 3 months with that whole thing? So like you're saying, it would be helpful for you to create some real tangible results out of this process, right? To be able to set a goal by, this date. So in your case, we're at February, March, April, May. So by May 1st, I'm going to, have this, and this is how we're going to use the system. This is what we're going to do, and that sort of thing. So that's one way, but I don't want to say you have to have it by May 1st either, because you could be starting a process that's going to lead you to, an August date or whatever. But like you're saying, I am recommending to people that for the purposes of the leadership council term, that we go as broad as people want, to have something there, because Angie, in doing all of that, now sees that she's not actually working on all of this all at once. It's just these certain things that she's working on. So, and again, when I say you get to do this on your own, whenever. So I recommend that you mind map your life and all of the things that you're thinking about and all the places that they hold as, yes, your top level thing. And then you have your, one thing that you're going to focus on, or your 3 things that you want to outline, just so you can be in the process of recruiting people for this. But this is the one that I'm really going to focus on, right now in terms of creating results or what have you. So yes, I would just say use the process, the best that you can, the best that you can take advantage of it, and within the situation that we have as well, right?
Okay, that makes sense. And going through the process of actually populating the mind map with the whole enchilada might help give me greater insight into, where I would like to be, putting more of my energy.
Yeah, exactly. I think, again, just to get it out of your head, let's just start creating one here. So just to get it out of your head, I suggest that we do just, something top level. And then, if you have something in mind already, we quickly go to that. So let's just spend 5 minutes throwing out, or not even that, 5 minutes throwing out whatever your top level stuff is. Let's pick the one that's in your mind that you really want to focus on, or if it's 2 or 3 and you're not sure, let's talk about that. But let's, let's start building out the mind map as quickly as we can on the one that you want to really focus on. Sound good?
Right. Yeah, it does. But so do you think that it's better to go with something that's more of a project, or do you think it's like, let me just tell you what I'm thinking about. So one of my main goals that I'm working on with my organization is building a functional, high caliber advisory council, and drawing some additional board members from that council, so that I can have, a more powerful support system and infrastructure for, all the things a nonprofit needs. So that's a goal. Then at the same time, I've got like some really intriguing projects that I've gotten started, and one is a multi-sensory immersion art exhibit that I'm working with the art community to create, that's going to bring in all sorts of sensory elements besides just visual. It's going to have, tactile, it's going to have auditory, it's going to have olfactory. I mean, all the senses will be engaged, and we're going to have these culminating activities and everything. And we're really going to use the project to bring down barriers, between people with disabilities and the general population, whatever. And that's a project that's going to have a lot of moving parts and a lot of personalities and collaborators and all that sort of stuff. So I guess like some of the things I'm thinking of fall more onto the operational side, and then some of the things I'm thinking of are more like self-contained projects that have almost like their own definition in a way. So what's the best way for me to devise the mind map so that I get the most? What do you think? Would I go with?
Well, I think, again, if I were you, I would make separate mind maps for each of those, just as an exercise, just for yourself. So, and I would make a mind map for anything that you're focusing on right now, and have this universal mind map. And then on your profile page, here's your big mind map. Here's my other mind maps. Here's what I'm focusing on for this. It sounds like you haven't, because it sounds like what you're doing with the advisory council and the board members, you're going to be doing that in the background anyways, right? You're already doing that essentially, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, okay. So you're already doing that. So you should start using the system to make it a more efficient and a more effective process. Now, again, but having said that, I think what you described in terms of the tactile, experience, I think sounds like you said, that you and the others that you're working with are going to, I think, have more. It's going to be very clear to you and everyone the benefits of working within the system, to share information and to create results. It's like every little detail that what you guys are talking about is going to have its place within the system. So it's essentially going to be like channels. So imagine that you have like these branches of the tree, right? And whatever conversation needs to happen between 2 people or more than 2 people is going to end up on some, branch of a tree, right? And then when others need to start joining that conversation or know what's already been talked about or whatever, they're going to find it there, right? And so again, you're going to start to have all of this content around the whole process that hither before now was hidden from everybody, right? It's happening in all these individual conversations, but then you got to have another individual conversation just to catch up on what, had already been talked about, and just to hear it again or whatever, right? I mean, it's like crazy, the redundancy of the process to get things done these days, right?
Right. And also the bottlenecks. That's a big problem that my leadership team is dealing with right now, is the bottlenecks. It's like nobody can do anything without coming back to that touch point. And, it's like you can't move very quickly. So yeah, I'm all about this. Is awesome. What you're doing is awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. So then do I go and answer the questions, the why are you here, the manifestation process questions? Does that,
You can. I mean, that's really to help spur thinking for people. You've already got a bunch of clear things in mind, so you're welcome to go back there and see if you're missing anything, but you've already got enough to start populating your mind map with, right? Let's just, start so that we're starting. So first you've got your you want to say advisory council? Is that the way you want to say it, or what do you want to say?
Yeah, advisory council.
And then
it's really just the wish of an advisory council.
And that's leading to your board recruitment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've also got your, so what's the term you're using for the experience that you're creating?
It's a multi-sensory immersion art exhibit. So multi-sensory immersion art exhibit.
Okay.
So that's a project.
Yeah, and so we'll spend a little bit of time on that in just a minute here. Is there anything else you want to add on your main map right now before we start diving into this?
No, I don't want to. I want to move on this, but I'm sure I could add a lot of other stuff in, and I will. But I just want to see how this plays out.
Yeah, let's do this. Okay, great. You tell me where to start.
Okay, so now what are the branches that come off of this? So I've got the title of the project, and so it's all the components that need to be brought together.
Yeah, it's really how you're imagining, breaking it down. So, I think, you've got, have you selected a venue already?
Well, we do have a venue, but even that is somewhat flexible because we're thinking that this might become a traveling exhibit because there's been interest. So we're in one art district, but there's 2 other nearby art districts and even more art districts if you travel an hour plus. And so we're thinking like, well, why limit ourselves? So we do have a venue, like a starting point. And
okay, great. And then what about the artists? Do you have a selection process or something like that?
So we're going to put out a call to artists, but so far I've just been having kind of like curated discussions with some of the artists who I resonate with, who I think get, our mission, and also just to kind of collect feedback. But I need to put out, like, that would be one of the very first steps, would be to put out a call to artists and see who self-selects to get involved in some kind of a preliminary, or maybe that maybe what they'll do is we'll have something connected with this that they'll look at and they'll say, oh, I see what it's going to be. And but anyway, that has not yet happened, but that'll be a key component. Then we'll also be collaborating. We're not going to limit ourselves just to visual art. So we've got, a couple of theaters in town that, we're hoping to collaborate with, and then also bring in some musicians for some of the culminating activities. So there are going to be a lot of different artsy folks involved in this.
So types of, what would we call this, that you're going to have? Theaters, musicians, visual artists?
I would say different forms of creative expression. So you've got acting and dance as well, is another creative form that we want to incorporate.
Yeah, are you guys doing anything virtual, metaverse kind of thing?
We should, especially if this is going to turn into, I mean, we've even the idea even of having like getting a production crew in there to do like a documentary or some type of a production that would come out of it that we could use to spread the idea beyond just our small town.
I'm not sure if documenting is the category, but we can come back to that because I think you've got some other ones that I want to get down to, like ticketing and that sort of thing. Is that's like, how are you like charging for this? How is that getting managed?
Right. Well, we don't usually charge at the gallery that I'm associated with. It's just a community gallery and it's volunteer run for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
it would
no
be,
tickets are.
no,
I'm sorry.
we don't usually sell tickets, but we do sometimes host private events. And so there could, something like that could come out of it.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm feeling like there must be other parts of this. Who else do you have involved, and what are you guys doing that should also be included in here?
Well, who else do I have involved? Well, there's this gentleman, Stephen Allen, who has an organization called Policy Works. Anyway, his organization is called Policy Works, but he works in my space and he has a national level nonprofit. And he came out for a visit and we talked about this idea. I'm really kind of paraphrasing. He visited for a couple of days, but one of the things we had talked about was this idea. So he's a theater person, and he's in the disability community. And he's got this national reach, and he's the founder of an organization called Lights Camera Access. And so that's where I kind of started getting the idea that maybe some filming could take place, and some of his folks that have gone through Lights Camera Access, they're individuals with disabilities who've learned some production skills that perhaps they could get involved that way, and trying to create some win-win
So that would be
situations here.
production support. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So we're over here where you have documenting. I was thinking that like filming might be, but I guess documenting can be more broad than just film.
I think it's well, I think it's coming under production. So you've got pre-production, you've got post-production, right?
Mhm.
Let's just say that production.
Okay, I get it. I see what you're doing.
So are we hitting like all of the major things? Are there other things that are popping in your mind?
Oh, I'm just kind of thinking about just all the different ideas I had associated with this. Like, there's a new boutique style hotel that's gone up like right next door to the gallery. And I thought about approaching them to see if they might help us to host some of our traveling artists and traveling, like Stephen, he'll be traveling from North Florida and stuff. And I just kind of thought that might be a relationship worth exploring, because they are right next door and they're new, and they could support us that way, and maybe we could have like some receptions there, or some different
Yep.
sorts of things we could do together.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I'm sure there's other sponsorships. I don't know, is there like admin support that's required, or the people that are just going to have to be doing like some project management or keeping on top of things? Or
Well, as far as the producing the art itself, the artists will, each work independently from that perspective. But I have a friend in Tampa who is an artist, a professional artist. And he had this idea, or it's something that he had done, years ago when he was in London. He called it an art convener, which is a term I've never heard before, but the idea is that the artists all come together and they bring their art, and then as a group, they take turns kind of honing in on each person's piece and kind of like sharing their impressions, maybe a little bit of critiquing, but it's not so much critiquing. It's more just, like sharing. And we were thinking if we could do a couple of art conveners, that we could use some of the feedback that developed through that process as, part of like a guided audio tour through the exhibit. That for the idea being that people could come into the exhibit, they could put on blackout goggles or something like that we would have, and then they would be able to go through the exhibit and experience the art through, a multi-sensory aspect, and then maybe even remove the goggles and go through the exhibit a second time. For those of us lucky enough to be sighted, we have that option. And so having an audio tour, now see, now you're getting into some technology. So we will have to attract the right kind of people who have the skill to actually pull something like that together. So part of the challenge in this project is figuring out the expertise that we need to attract to be able to really pull it off. But I think it all starts when we start pulling the artists together and having the conversations about, where we could go with something like this. And then the culminating activities, that's a whole nother area where we could do, sensory journey type of like poetry workshops. And, we could do if you get creative people together and you toss something like this in front of them, and like it's endless. It's literally endless what they could do. And then the whole other aspect, which to me is kind of obvious, but it's not necessarily obvious, is that we want to include differently abled artists in the whole process, and not just differently abled artists, but just differently abled people who want to have a voice at the table. I mean, if we're trying to do something that's ultimately going to be for them, then it should also be by them, and they should be invited and included to be part of developing the whole event, the whole vision for it. So I have already proactively spoken with some artists with disabilities to kind of start getting that feedback, and to say, hey, really would like to have you included in this because your point of view is critical, and it's a great way for us to learn about each other as human beings. And the response has been really positive, which is why I really do want to pursue this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. It's all becoming much more clear to me as I map it all out here, and I hope this is giving you a good start of a map for yourself to kind of see where you want to spend more time. Like the couple minutes that you spent talking about some of the different things with the conveners and going to the poetry and that sort of thing. Again, it's those things that you've now shared on video that we can take that 1 or 2 minute clip, we can put it there. Now others can comment, others can share. You can get to a finished invitation that you want to create for people. You can be in a process to get where you want to go with the vision, because now you're sharing bits and pieces here, bits and pieces there, and now you're having the raw materials you need to share those bits and pieces with all the different people and entities that you need to. So do you see where this is going now, and you see the next steps at this point?
I think that I am beginning to see it, and I'm also kind of jumping ahead in a way, because I wanted to, I already have some folks who I've talked to who are like, yes, absolutely, just tell me when. I want to get started. I want to work on this with you. And so it's kind of perfect timing, because they can come in and they can be a part of this process, so that we don't have to, reinvent the wheel and go through the frustration of, all the frustrations that you go through when you're trying to work together with people and get everyone on the same page. Well, it doesn't matter to me whose page it is, but let's try to get it so that we're all working from the same script. So you can add to it. And this looks to me like it will really facilitate that process. It's very easy to say like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Maybe that convener idea, we can just take that out and replace it with something that you thought of that's better. You know what I mean? I really like that. This looks like it'd be very, very practical, and the kind of thing that you will actually use, which, yeah, so many processes, you learn it, you're like, oh yeah, that's really cool. But then you don't ever actually use it for a bunch of different reasons.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm really glad that you're seeing the vision and that you're excited by it and you see the applicability right away to what you're doing. And I'm very excited to, see how you're going to use the process and support you in that, and have you at the leadership council meeting talking about, what you're doing and sharing what you're doing, and all of it. Super exciting right now.
Yeah, it is, Jared. This is great. I'm so happy to see you happy, and to see that you're I know that you were doing some cool and exciting things, and you were I think you were enjoying the work, but you really have a radiant glow about you as you're explaining all of this to me, and I just wanted you to know that I noticed that it's fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for seeing that and feeling that and saying that. That's really great. I appreciate it. Awesome. Yay. Okay, cool. I know that this is when you were thinking you had to wrap up. You want to wrap up now?
Yeah, I have to get to the other side of town for a 7 p.m. meeting.
Okay.
But I'm sure that the 45 minutes in the car, this is going to be really busy thanks to you.
and feel free, if you can't do it on video, hit the audio recorder on your phone and record some things, because again, as you're getting it out of your head, get it down onto something that you can work with it later, somebody can work with it later. Again, we're going to create a whole marketplace. The world doesn't know it yet. We'll just end with this. The world doesn't know it yet, but we're right now inventing the #1 job need on the planet that's coming up. It's going to be processing videos and processing audio.
Well, I already know it. I knew that already, because that's what I have such a need for. And I've got this young woman who does some work for me, and every time she produces something, like energetically, I just get so much more clarity, so much more excitement around what I'm doing. And when I'm able to put something out and people see it and they go, I get it. It's like that aha. I mean, you hear the angels singing. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm glad that you already even knew that. That's so great. And one of the things that's in my mind, and we'll just end with this, is that this whole system, we'll have to have another conversation about it some other time, but this whole system is really an amazing thing for disabled people as well, because it's a real the system is a real equalizer. It lets people do work and not even need to know, who's on the other side, but it's just the quality of the work, it's all just based on the quality of the work, and people are just paying for quality, essentially, is what it comes down to. I'm kind of jumping ahead, but it's going to be an opportunity. This whole system is going to be an opportunity for, people with disabilities, homeless people, people in prisons, all kinds of different situations where, people are going to be able to plug in and do work and get paid well because they're doing good work, regardless of where they are in the world.
The process itself lends itself to life coaching and, and like planning. So that's to me, that's a big foundational piece of success in life for anyone. And we're all kind of been floundering around trying to try this, try that, try the other thing, try the to-do list, try the planner, try the, all the different things you try to use to manage yourself. And in the work that I do, a big part of that is I'm trying to teach people the skills for success, regardless of what their disability might be, physical, intellectual, what have you, so that they can have the optimum life that they want to create for themselves, just like everybody. And so I'm always interested in any tool that could be adapted for use with my population. So I think this looks great. I'm super excited. Even
Awesome.
more excited than I was now that I've seen it.
Yay, that's great. Awesome. All right, I'm super excited, Diane. Thank you for being a part of all this. Super excited to, see where we go, let it all happen. Let the universe flow through us.
Indeed. Indeed.
Awesome. Have
Thanks
a great
so
night.
You
Yes,
too,
great to
Taryn.
be with you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I
Thank you
really,
so much,
and
my
thank you
friend.
for all of your support, through all of this time. It's been really, really great. I really just want to honor and appreciate you, and thank you so much.
Well, I wish I could support you more, but I'm sending you everything that I have. So
It's way more than enough. Way more than enough. Thank you so much, Diane. So great to be
friend.
with you.
Talk to you again soon. Thanks, Terry.
Yes, have a great night. Bye-bye.
Bye.